What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here with a great group of individuals, college sports, college football insiders. I'm here joined by Sam Vitale, Cody Almasy, and Connor Matlock, brand new face on the GCP. How you guys doing tonight?
Sam, you're muted, but I am doing great, John. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys letting me join. I'm excited to talk some college football.
Great. Sam, how you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I just found the mute button, so I'm on cloud nine right now.
There it is.
Good. We've already got a game under our belt tonight, and Wake Forest, Missouri is already kicked off, so I couldn't be better, man.
Great to hear it, Cody.
Yep. It is the best time of the year. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Just welcome to the GCP. Excited to have Connor on with us and excited to break down some bowls. Let's do it, boys.
Bowl season's finally here. Everybody knows. If you haven't known, then you must be living under a rock. But bowl season has arrived, and we're in full swing with a great slew of bowl games that have taken place. Some good thrillers, some upsets, and we've seen some great football. So, Cody, do you want to give us a quick recap? Go through the Friday, Saturday games, and I'll take it over from there, going on to this past Monday.
Yep, we got started with the Hometown Lenders Bowl. It was UAB coming up with the win over Miami, Ohio. Huge defensive stop at the 2-yard line to give UAB the win in that one. Then we get onto some ranked teams. It was one of the only ranked teams bowls that we've had so far, but it pitted 25 UTSA versus number 24 Troy. And UTSA got to the hot start, scored the first 12, but the Roadrunner, Troy forced 5 turnovers and shut down the Roadrunners in the second half to win the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. And moving on to Saturday, we moved to the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, and that was the Louisville Cardinal versus the Cincinnati Bearcats. Deion Branch actually interim head coach this game, and the Louisville Cardinals, they were feeling that magic, that Deion Branch juice, and they come away with the win 24-7. Oregon State, number 14, takes on the Florida Gators in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. And, man, Florida looked lost. It was all Beavers in this one, 30-3. And Florida kicked a field goal at the last second, just kind of a pride move. They didn't want to get shut out. They have a streak going, and a lot of people did not like them kicking that field goal with 37 seconds left to get on the board. We're going to move to the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, where Fresno State takes on Wazoo State, and Jay Kaner, the senior, throws it all over the field, and Fresno State takes out Washington State 29-6. Going to head on to the Lending Tree Bowl, where Frank Gore Jr., yes, Frank Gore's son, sets the NCAA Bowl record, 329 rushing yards, as Southern Miss runs past Rice 38-24. And possibly the most exciting bowl of the weekend, BYU holds on to win the New Mexico Bowl 24-23 over SMU. And SMU, they went for it all. They went for it all at the end, tried to go for 2, get the dub. They don't play for overtime. It's bowl season. What do you got to lose? And they come up short. You got to respect the move going for it, but in the end, it results in a Birmingham Young victory there. And then the final bowl of the weekend with North Texas and Boise State. This featured 1 tie, 7 lead changes before the Broncos of Boise State ultimately hold on to beat North Texas 35-32. And I will take a breath and pass it to you, John.
Great work right there, explaining those weekend games. And that's just a taste, ladies and gentlemen. That's just a taste of what we've already experienced so far in this bowl season. So I'll talk about Marshall and UConn in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Marshall and the Thundering Herd take over the UConn Huskies 28-14 on Monday afternoon. A nice little, it's a siesta bowl is what I like to call it. Not the Fiesta Bowl. It's a siesta bowl. Right in the afternoon, you're ready for a nap. It's a Monday, almost winter break. You're ready to, just kick your feet up and throw some eggnog in your glass. And it just had a great game. Great performance by the Marshall Thundering Herd. They won their 5th straight game to close the season, holding off UConn 28-14. After leading by 4 touchdowns, the Huskies, they made it Very interesting, though. They battled back. Cam Fancher threw for 2 touchdowns, and Rasheen Ali ran for 92 yards and a score for the Thundering Herd. Great performance by these two gentlemen. Great dynamic duo for the Thundering Herd, and it was seemingly well in hand. Marshall went up 28-0, and then the Huskies battled back. They made it look like they were going to make a comeback. And then the fourth quarter, nobody scored any points. It could have ended right there in the third. The Thundering Herd, they took it, and they won it, finished the season 9-4. And they feel really good. They feel good to get that game under their belt. A bowl game's always a big game to win. And, it's easy to undermine a lot of these bowl games. It's like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Last game of the year, let's throw everything in there. Let's throw everything we got on the field. The players that remained, that didn't declare for the draft, which you see a lot of returning players. You see a lot of upperclassmen in these sub-tiered bowl games. You like to see them throw everything on the field and just leave everything out there, nothing left unsaid, basically. And they're doing great, and especially Marshall with their big win over Notre Dame in September, 26-21. It's a great little cap of their season to win their bowl game here in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. So great stuff here on this past Monday. And then I'll pass it back to Cody. Tell me about the Eastern Michigan Eagles and how they played. Let's hear it.
Yeah, talked about it last week. I was fully bought in, fully locked in to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise. And, man, what a treat, Not only did my team take care of business, they did it in convincing fashion, had their best season in many, many years, in their first bowl win in 35. Since they beat the same San Jose State team in the California Bowl all those years ago. But, they had to face some adversity to do it, start out in a hole 13-0, and then the Spartans are going to convert the extra point, and Josiah Scott blocks it, takes it all the way to the crib, and it was all Eagles from there. They go on to score 33 unanswered, and yeah, I had a couple bets out on this as well. I took the over for both quarterbacks passing yards. I took EMU money line and the over in the game as well. And EMU just wasn't really getting a lot of love, a lot of respect coming into this game. And as somebody who works for the team and watches them play week in and week out, follows the team pretty closely, I was able to sniff this one out, make some money, and then also see my Eastern Michigan Eagles get a dub in the process. And their head coach, Chris Creighton, he's done such a good job coming to this program. Before he got here, they were talking about moving down to Division II to FCS. So that a lot has changed, and I'm thinking about making a shirt for next year's football season. King Creighton, you're going to see him wearing a nice crown on his head, and they're gonna be in the stands. So keep an eye out for that next year.
No, King Creighton's definitely the T-shirt to make, Cody. I think it's huge what he's doing with the program. I think he's building something special. I look back at their record. Their best record since 2008, and I'm sure it goes back farther than this, was 7-6. So to put together a 9-4 season, that's something special. That's something Ypsilanti's not used to. I mean, we're quite used to it down the road in Ann Arbor, but Chris Creighton's really doing something of his own right now.
I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with this team. Cody, go ahead.
I got to talk with them. They, believe it or not, the whole team and the coach, they flew back right after winning the bowl game. They celebrated for about an hour or 2 hours, but then they flew right back. And we did a National Signing Day show on ESPN, and he was there in the morning, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I think he's still running off those fumes, man. He's watching himself on the monitor, pass potatoes out to the crowd, juggling it, and it was a treat, man. I can't wait to see what he does with this momentum next year. And go Eagles.
Them Eagles, they're feeling themselves, man. And with all their athletics, I think you look at Eastern Michigan historically, and just kind of, see a mediocre. I don't want to offend anybody here, but you see a mediocre record, especially in football. You don't see them competing with decent teams or even standing alone. In any ranking system that you can find, it's basically, it hasn't been great. But this is a huge leaf that has been turned. And you mentioned the name in the the alias King Creighton, and I think you should make that T-shirt. Hopefully nobody takes your idea before next season, but I think you should definitely do that, and it's well deserving. It's not something that is pretentious. It's not something that is, saying too much. I think it's very well deserved, and to bring some winning records back to Ypsilanti is huge. So
no, when you win the first bowl game for your team since the 80s, you get to call yourself king. I
definitely.
mean, that's guaranteed right there.
100%.
Yeah. I also just think it's, for these sort of teams, group of 5, non-power 5 teams specifically, teams in the MAC kind of that level where obviously they're not going to be recruiting to the likes of a lot of the power 5 names. I think things like culture, coaching, really focusing on building a program from the inside out is really more important than just about anything else, because you're not going to be able to rely on simply just having more talent than any other team. So I think those sort of things, and you can see that being built in Eastern's program right now, and something they've lacked for the better part of the last 40 years, is their culture and player development. So I applaud the coaching staff, and I'm excited. I got some family that's Eastern alumni, so super happy for them.
It's exciting stuff, man. I know Cody's happy. I know Moose is probably doing jumping jacks, seeing how these Eastern Michigan Eagles have performed this season, and it gives a lot of high hope going forward, especially for their football program, and it puts them in a different light that I don't think that Eastern Michigan has been in or even close to in a long time, and that's impressive, especially being an in-state team that's competing and that's winning bowl games. It's good. And San Jose State is no team to really sniff at. It's not a terrible team. It's not a scumbag team. I mean, looking at this bowl game, it's a great win, and to end your season with that is huge, especially making history. Basically, it's the first bowl game win in this century, so in this millennium. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's a big deal for the Eastern Michigan Eagles. So Cody, I'm happy.
I really
for
wanted
you.
to bring just a potato on live screen here and just rip a bite out of a raw one, but I thought it'd be a little bit over the top. You have anything else to say before I knock out a few more bowls here, Sam?
Yeah, I'll let you know. I mean, not just Eastern, but the MAC is representing in these bowl games. I know we've got 3 wins. Cody, do you know the overall record right now?
I think it might be 3-1 because they lost the first. Miami, Ohio came up short against Alabama, Birmingham. So it started out 0-1, but since then, we're on a good track.
It's great to see some fight in these guys. That's what you love to see, is conference versus conference. You don't necessarily get it with the Power Fives. You're not getting, the second best ACC team versus the second best SEC team. That's not going to happen, right? But with these G5 conference bowl games, I mean, it's awesome to see the best against the best.
Most definitely, my man. Get through some more bowls here. The roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. That's a mouthful. I take no pleasure in saying this, but the Toledo Rockets, though we're rooting for the MAC, but they are the team that beat my Eagles head-to-head, kept us out of the MAC championship. They take care of business, and they hold on against the Liberty Flames and win the Boca Raton Bowl 21-19. Then we're going to go to Wednesday night. Something's going on in Western Kentucky, dude. These quarterbacks, never hear about them, and then they're just throwing a massive amount of touchdowns, and that's what happened Wednesday night. Austin Reed and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers light it up. They light up the Jags of South Alabama 44-23 to take home the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. And that was a fun one, and NOLA was also able to capitalize on this one, make a little bit of money. The betting, it's out there for us right now because, like you said it perfectly, these conference-to-conference matchups just provide a lot of unknown variables that just provides us an unprecedented time to, capitalize on Vegas because they don't have it as easy as they normally do in the regular season. One more bowl before I throw it to Sam. Last night, Baylor gets shut down by Air Force, man, in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl by a score of 30-15. And, Baylor was looking good a little bit early, but they just couldn't really get anything going. And I was really questioning Dave Aranda's coaching decisions. I don't know if he's done with Baylor trying to get fired, but this man refused to punt the ball last night, and it just was turning into Air Force touchdowns. And I had the under, and it just barely hits, cools off my hot streak, and yeah, that was a tough one. But this weather is really starting to play a factor in some of these bowl games.
You
got
Cody,
something to say about this early bowl game today? Oh, sorry, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, I'll just toss in about the Air Force Baylor game. I watched that game pretty closely. It was just interesting game to watch. It's two very different teams. Anytime somebody plays a service academy in a bowl game, I'm going to be watching. And what was interesting, one thing jumped off to me. I went and looked back because I wasn't sure, but Baylor 0 for 11 on third down. There's a stat you're going to want to. That's pretty much the name of the game there. And Air Force 280 yards on the ground, which is to be expected. But if you watch 10 minutes of the game, it was pretty clear Air Force was controlling both sides of the ball. Baylor couldn't move it. A couple big plays here and there for Baylor, but really couldn't get anything going. So I think they outscored total yardage was something in the neighborhood of 375 to 225 difference or something, Air Force to Baylor. So it was interesting to see a Baylor team, a Big 12 champ last year, get simply outmatched by a service academy like Air Force, which a solid team, but not exactly what you expect. And the time of possession, I know this also to be expected for a team that runs the ball every play, but 40 minutes for Air Force, 20 minutes for Baylor. So I think if you knew that going into the game, you probably would have had a pretty good idea of what the outcome was going to be.
Oh, dude, and you're saying it perfectly. I mean, it almost seemed like Dave Aranda, the old meme where it shows one of the 2K players and the 2K had left the game. That's what it seemed like. Baylor had left the game. They had lost connection. And Air Force, it seemed like he was just trying to run out the clock. He didn't even want to score one more touchdown at the end of the game. But Baylor, those kids were cold, and it was felt like -7 in Fort Worth, Texas last night. And those Air Force kids, they're ready for that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And those college Baylor boys from Texas, they're not ready to get down and tackle you, lower your shoulder in the cold. They're not here for it.
I don't know that it's acceptable to acknowledge the weather as part of the factor in the outcome of the game when you're at a service academy, but it is just wild to watch Air Force beat up on the 2021 Big 12 champs and the 2021 Big 12 Coach of the Year. I mean, if you'd have called it that way at the beginning of the season, if you'd have called it even Baylor not making the conference championship game, I'd have said you're out of your mind back in August. But I mean, look where it is now. The service academies can play ball.
They definitely can play ball, and they're teaching them something different over there. And I guess if anyone here has had an experience, or if they have a friend or family member that's experienced being on a football team in a service academy, I would just want to know, what is that workload like? Like, what does your daily routine look like? Because I got to assume that your servicemen or women out there, they're going to be following an itinerary that's more centralized on, being in the military compared to athletics. And I just think that there's going to have to be a precedent there. There's going to be something that takes priority. But to see, this shift where we're seeing a lot of strength in these, these military branches and their football programs, it's really impressive to see. And there's got to be something itinerary-wise, routine-wise that has shifted, because I've seen more of a priority be in the realm of football than I've ever seen before. And it's a lot more competitive. They're beating teams that are out of their conference, that are major league Power 5 teams that you see winning. They're in contention for the CFP more times than not, and they're winning conference championships. So to see that is very unprecedented, but it's great to see. I like it.
Yeah, and I think it probably seems to me like a pretty good reason for that, at least, is number one, they're they never commit penalties, and they play purely by analytics. There's a reason that no teams really love to schedule to play against any of the three, any of them in their non-conference, especially like a first game of the year, because it's going to be like something you never practice against. You never used to playing against their style of offense. So there's a reason you never want to, teams aren't looking forward to playing them. But it is interesting to know the competitiveness and I guess that the talent that's being acquired is on the up and up for all of them. So.
Yeah, you can see it too. It's very evident that there's a mindset shift and a difference mindset-wise compared to, I'd say, any of the three, branch teams compared to almost any other team in college football. So there's got to be something that's going on either in the locker room or it's in the coaching plan book, whatever it is. Something's happening. Something's going on behind closed doors that's helping their football program defeat teams that maybe they shouldn't be defeating on paper, at least looking back. But the game is changing, itineraries are changing, playing styles are changing constantly, and rules are changing too. So we're seeing a lot of changes happen. We're witnessing college football, and I would even go on a limb and say NFL football too. We're seeing the game of football evolve. Some things for the better, and some things I would say not so much. But we'll save that for another show. Sam, do you have your? Let's talk about your bowl game. Just got done here not too long ago. Let's talk about the Houston game.
Yeah, today I've been looking forward to it all week. I'm always going to be a fan of afternoon kickoff games. We had the Radiance Technologies Bowl today, Houston versus Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. I had some stats coming into the game that I thought might be interesting. Houston was ranked 20th in the nation for offensive yards per game, putting up 464 on average. To counter that, though, they were 108th in the nation for defensive yards allowed per game at 430. So, the ball moves around when Houston plays. Admittedly, I've seen a lot of their games this year. I love, when they put their games on in the middle of the week. I had a bad gut feeling about Houston coming into this game. I thought -5 points might be a little much. I've seen Houston come out and just dragging at the beginning of their games. It's almost like they expect to be there. It's almost like they expect to win. I don't know if they confuse themselves with their basketball team, but they seem to think that they're, a group of killers out there, and it tends to get them into early scoring deficits. And so, against a team like the Raging Cajuns, it's not something you want to do. These guys like to move the ball around. These guys like to throw. And especially if you're going to be lackadaisical on defense like Houston was in the first half today, I mean, their defense is not good. They're 113th in the nation for total points allowed this year with 402. They're tied with the Akron Zips. Now, I don't want to rip on the MAC. We had a good powwow earlier about the MAC. I'm all about the MAC. But what I mean here is that Houston's moving into the Big 12. Can you compete next year with a team like Oklahoma, with a team like Texas, Oklahoma State, TCU? If you've got that bad of a defense, I mean, coming into this game, it looked up front like the Raging Cajuns were going to be able to do whatever they wanted. And it was, I guess, kind of, I don't know if I want to call it shocking. If you'd watched all of their games this year, or most of their games, you'd know the Raging Cajuns like to come back. They like to play in that fourth quarter. So to come back and outscore Louisiana in the second half, I think, what do we got? 17-0 in the second half? I mean, it's something crazy like that. I don't know if Louisiana gave up or if Houston's seniors said, hey, one more game. We've got one more game to play. Let's put it all out on the field. But no, it was interesting. It just kind of leads me to more questions about what does Houston's football team look like going forward in the Big 12? I mean, we're stepping it up. This is not G5. We're not playing against all 1, 2, and 3 stars. We're playing against Brent Venables. We're playing against Dave Aranda, next year even. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I thought Clayton Tune, I thought he had an overall good game, especially in the second half. I thought that they really caught their composure in the fourth quarter. I was more so impressed with Chandler Fields, Raging Cajun starting quarterback, when he needed to. He made big plays. He scrambled. He threw off his back foot when he needed to. He became the field general, and he sat back in the pocket. He was patient tonight. I saw him stand back there longer than I would want to if I had a whole D-line coming at me, just waiting for the open receiver to break the zone. I mean, it was pretty interesting to see. Nonetheless, the game was exciting, right? The Cougars come back. They score in the 11th hour, and they cover that 5-point spread. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better 3 o'clock kickoff, right? I mean, it was a great game. I was happy with it, and I wish all the bowls were this tight.
Yeah,
Cody,
man.
what do you got to say?
The
Cody, I know
great
you got something to say about that.
Raging Cajuns, a team that, stolen from my Eagles early on in the season on the NFL Network. So I took a little pleasure in seeing them take the L here. I like Clayton Tune. I've followed him since last year, and he had a pretty good season. A little underwhelming this year, where his expectations were after competing with Cincinnati last year in that championship game. But I seen him step up at the end of the game there, like you said, and man, the Raging Cajuns just kind of opened up on defense, and he was able to pull out, I think, a 34-yard run there and kind of get him into with striking distance and kind of put an exclamation point on the game. But nonetheless, super fun. Do any of you guys have a update on the current bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl, Wake Forest and Mizzo going on right now?
Yeah, we've got Wake Forest is controlling the whole game right now. They're up 14-3. They've got a few minutes left to go, not a few minutes, but 7 minutes left to go in the first half here. It's the Wake Forest show right now. Going back to the Houston game though, real quick, I do just want to point out, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse, but I think it's a big deal when you come into a Power 5 conference. Houston had only 2 wins this year against teams with winning records. That's UTSA in week 1. They lost in overtime, or they won in overtime, sorry. And then their other win against a team with a winning record was East Carolina, and they blew them out. They won 42-3. The combined record of teams that Houston beat this year was 37-50. If you take UTSA out, okay, that's their week 1 win. If you take them out, their combined record of teams that they beat is 26-47. I just want to emphasize that. Next year we're playing Texas, we're playing Baylor, OK State, TCU. I mean, they're going to go through the ringer here.
They're going to see where men get made. They will
exactly.
see. Is Clayton Tune, is he departing, or does he have a little more eligibility? Because when he's gone, it's definitely going to be a little questionable of how that offense gets ran.
That's a great question. That's a good one.
Clayton Tune's a senior this year, so I don't think he can stick around. I think they're going to have to start from scratch.
It's always, you never know right now with the eligibility. We got that guy from Oregon who just got granted his 9th year of NCAA eligibility.
Well, hell, Stetson Bennett's my age, man. I feel like a bum when I look at him. I say I got no national championships. We're the same age right now. Actually, we're both the same age as Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, Clayton Tune could have another couple years of eligibility. Who knows what the red shirt and COVID did, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of loopholes in the system, and as long as you can find them, you can take advantage of them. Good stuff. Let's move on. Let's give you the bowls by the numbers just thus far. So the favorite covered 6 out of 14 games, or 43% of the time. The first 5 bowl games went under. Overs only hit 5 out of 14 games thus far. 36% of them have hit for overs. One push so far has been the bowl that I covered, the over-under in the Myrtle Beach Bowl between UConn and Marshall. And fun fact, Cody is up $634 on bowl season bets. So, Cody, you wanna give me some words for that?
Yeah, we're
congrats, by the way.
Stockings over here. Yeah, we started out rough. That first bowl game, UTSA Troy, went big on that one. I really thought I had it sniffed out. Under crushed me, and I've learned some lessons from there, and we're trying to stay hot. So calculated moves from here on out.
Cody, I think your recent success is making me think we gotta revive or start the GSN handicapping system here. Connor and I are not too shy when it comes to college football betting. We've actually got a good story about it. We made enough money last year off of the MAC championship game to go to the Michigan-Ohio State game. We raised about $1,000 in one night just to make that game. I think with your streak and our historical win percentages, we could get that going again.
Hey, great point. That's a great point, Sam. And we're trying to bring back actually Bet with Gin, which is a betting and handicapping service that will be provided to the people, coming soon here. I'll say 2023. We've been getting some systems going and just really figuring out. We want to fine tune a way to reveal that. It'll probably be in the form of a Discord, and we'll give you more information on that in the new year for sure. But that will be going on, and a lot of plans will be made going into the new year behind closed doors. And that's just a little bit of a sneak peek right there. Thank you, Sam, for that. And we'll be talking more about it going forward on this podcast. So we're looking forward to all of that stuff, especially with college basketball approaching. It's going to bring a very appreciable element to the betting platform. So we're looking forward to all of it. Let's look at the bowls that are coming up. So the Guaranteed Rate Bowl on the 27th at 10:15 p.m., little nightcap game. Wisconsin takes on Oklahoma State in Phoenix. Wisconsin is -3.5, over under 43 as the line stands. San Diego Country Credit Union Holiday Bowl on the 28th at 8 p.m. Oregon clashes with UNC in, you guessed it, San Diego, California, and Oregon is -14.5, over under 74. Got a big over under there. Going to be looking for either smashes on the over or some unders. We'll be looking at that one too and posting about it. And then you got the Cheez-It Bowl on the 29th, 5:30 p.m. Oklahoma is set to match up with 13-ranked Florida State in Orlando, Florida. Florida State is -9, over under 66 as the line stands. Any of those games look appealing to us, gentlemen? It's a free-for-all. Let me hear what you got.
Yeah, I've got quite a mouthful to say about that Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I don't have a pick. I'm not going to put out my best bet, smash Oklahoma State minus the points. But no, I'm not going to make an official pick here. I'll give you a little bit of background. Wisconsin is 18-15 in their bowl games. Oklahoma State has a historical record of 21-11. Both teams have played in this bowl before, and they're undefeated playing this exact bowl. If you want some more historicals, Oklahoma State has lost 4 of their last 5 games. Take that as you will. I think there's some other interesting stats here. Passing yards per game, Oklahoma State averages 284. Flip that script, and you get Wisconsin averaging for 190. So, 190 is not small ball. That's not dink and doink. 284, however, that's some serious passing. Now, you really get to flip the script when you look at their defense. Oklahoma State gives up 270 yards in the air per game. Wisconsin gives up 202. So again, I'm not giving a best bet, Oklahoma minus the points, and maybe the over, but I'm not going to say that. Interesting points here. Graham Mertz, the multi-season starter for Wisconsin, not playing in this game. He entered the transfer portal back on December 5th. And to make it even more interesting, the new head coach, Luke Fickell, he's coaching this game, not in a head coaching capacity. He's taking over the D line for this game and has stated publicly he's having no influence on who the starting quarterback's going to be. He's stated that he is going to leave it up to the interim head coach, Jim Leonhard, to make that decision. Jim Leonhard's not told us who it's going to be yet. I think this game's a total toss-up. I think that it's going to be a battle of matchups. But again, I mean, it could go either way. I think there's a lot of questions in this game more than answers.
Yeah, definitely a lot of questions. I'm probably not going to bet this one. It's called the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. It should be called the Guaranteed Transfer Bowl because both starting quarterbacks from the year are transferring. Graham Mertz has decided on Florida, I believe, going to head down there to Gainesville. And Spencer Sanders, he has not decided yet, but he is also in the transfer portal. And then you're bringing Luke Fickell into the mix. Super interesting. He's going to take over D-line coaching and then, take over the reins as head coach going into the offseason. So the questionable bowl for sure. Yeah.
A lot left to be determined. Connor, you go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and if there could be a more opposite bowl game in North Carolina and Oregon, as opposed to Wisconsin and Oklahoma State. I think, 30 points over under difference in the two games. Just a completely different matchup. In North Carolina, Oregon's one that I find super interesting. Also, that if I read it correctly, both Drake May and Bo Nix are planning to play So it should be a super entertaining game, high scoring as Vegas suggests. And I think you could see, I would personally think something like the over. I know it's a ton of points, 74 points, but I just don't see either of these defenses putting money stops together against either of these quarterbacks, especially if Drake May is on his way out. Bo Nix will be coming back next year, but I think they'll both want to try and put at least a positive cap on the end of their seasons that maybe didn't quite end the way that either of them would have liked. So
yeah,
this
Drake
is
May
something.
actually
Go ahead.
is staying. Drake May announced that he's staying.
Okay.
Yeah, like the rumors got put out there that he I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I think it was another coach had put out there that these schools had offered him like $5 million in NIL deals, and he had to go to Twitter because rumors at that point just started going crazy because his offensive coordinator went to Wisconsin, I believe, so they thought he might go play under Luke Fickell. But he has announced, that he loves UNC, he loves the Tar Heels, and he actually never received any of those offers. And he used that as a chance to speak about just how crazy this NIL stuff is, how these players are really going to schools for promised money and then, leaving in a year or two because they get promised more money. And that's not what Drake May's about. He loves UNC. His family is all about the Tar Heels. And yeah, this spread here, this 14.5 points in favor of Oregon is a little questionable to me. I know that UNC dropped, I think, 3 games to end their season, but I still just don't foresee, over 14 points discrepancy here. I could see the over going back and forth, but I don't think that either of these defenses, like you said, are going to be able to stop the bleeding.
To add to your point, Cody, 2 of UNC's losses, Clemson and Wake Forest. These teams aren't scrubs. UNC's not out here just, kicking the ball around. They're a real team. I think 14.5 points is a little silly. We'll see. I mean, Bo Nix is putting up those kind of numbers, but, UNC's got some defense. They're coming to play, so we'll see how that plays out. But to your point with the whole NIL, I think that's going to be a great conversation to have probably later this spring when the transfer portal opens back up. Wink, wink, Colorado. How are they getting all these guys? I mean, a lot more will come out by that time. And if we get a few more Travis Hunters going to Colorado, that conversation will bust wide open.
100%. Real quick, I want to pose a question to either the people listening or my guys right here. We're looking at the over-under here in the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl between Oregon and UNC, as we previously mentioned. I want to know the percentage of bets, over-under bets that hit that are over 70 points, going into kickoff. That's a fun fact, fun stat to find out. Might require a little bit of research, a little bit of diving deep, but I'm interested to see what you guys get. A little bit of homework for you. There's going to be a pop quiz.
Thanks,
I'm not going to tell you
it's supposed
when
to
it's
be
going to
winter
be.
break.
Hey, no days off. No days off, baby.
I'll give you guys a hint and a direction to follow. Look at how San Diego State moves the ball. They're not a high-powered offense. They're not scoring. So if 20 points per game on average means anything to you, start there.
All right, duly noted. Let's get into some other college football news. National Signing Day 2023. You want to give us the recruiting rankings, Cody? What are the recruiting rankings thus far?
Yeah, we'll just run through them real quick. You got Alabama sitting there at 1, Georgia sitting at 2. No real surprises there. But here's where stuff, starts to get a little foggy, and then it gets hard to interpret what the signing day means. Because like we're talking with NIL, you bring in a bunch of these people, say, I'll just run through the list real quick. Miami sitting at number 3, Oklahoma at 4, Oregon is at 5, the Texas Longhorns are at 6, Notre Dame is at 7, LSU is at 9. 8. Florida, the Florida Gators are at 9, and Ohio State is at 10. About 5 of those schools compete, for a college football playoff every year. And then you got teams like Miami, Oklahoma, and Texas that are scraping to get into the top 25 every week. And it's just interesting. TCU sitting up there at 17, their college football playoff team. Michigan Wolverines right behind them at 18. And just for, John here, Taven, we got MSU at 27, Mel Tucker, not falling off too much after a down year in East Lansing. And then Colorado is at 50. Had to give them a shout out. I can only expect that we see that to shoot up in the next couple of months here, and especially when you look at transfers as well. But what do you guys think? Do you think that besides, the Alabamas and Georgias of the world, how much does it mean being in the top 10 recruiting every year?
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. I guess I find it just, we're in such an interesting place right now where there's a few schools will flop, but you see schools like Miami, Texas A&M, and say what you will, but they're acquiring talent like nobody's business, and NIL obviously playing a majority of the factor into that. But I think what's interesting to see is how it's going to play out for those schools. We only got a couple of years of history to back it so far, but schools that are just basing it off of talent and pretty much offering pay to play contracts per se, versus schools that are using NIL a little differently in that they're looking to evaluate talent, not just promising bags of cash essentially right out of high school, but looking to say, we're looking to build a program here. If you're here for the long run, you become a contributing member of the team. The rewards will be there. But Michigan comes to mind as a school that's been that way. NIL for incoming freshmen isn't anything that nothing super exciting as compared to schools like Miami, where getting paid close to $1 million in some cases for some guys. So I guess it's just an interesting time to see where exactly there hasn't been proven a right or a wrong way to this point, and there's a lot of different ways to take it, but I guess it's just so vastly different from school to school, and there's a lot of ways to win. So that's all I'll say.
Well said. Let's move on. Let's talk about some transfer portal.
Great points there.
Let's talk about some transfer portal stuff. Cody, give me some of the transfers that have really stood out to you, and then I want to hear from Sam on which of these transfers has made the most impact or has the highest potential to make the most impact going into 2023.
Yeah, I think at least on my end of things, Devin Leary coming out of NC State, just a fighter, a guy who can win you games, go toe-to-toe with Clemson and DJ Uiagalelei, teams like that. He's going to Kentucky to replace Will Levis. So I'm interested how that transition is going to work, going from an NFL prospect to this incoming transfer who has established success in the same conference. I mean, in a different conference, the ACC, coming to the SEC in Kentucky. And then I'm also, just really curious to see how it works out over there in Iowa for Cade McNamara and Eric All. You know me, I was riding the JJ train all year long, even before the choice got made. But still want to see Cade do well, even though I don't know if he's too happy with the way things went here at Michigan for him. Eric All, a very close friend of his, followed him, went to Iowa. The only way that he could rematch his old team is if they somehow meet in the Big Ten championship. He seems pretty determined to do well in his new thread, so we'll see how it plays out. What do you got, Sam?
I'm most excited about our D-line transfer from Coastal Carolina, Josiah Stewart. I think that Michigan's the school where if you want to come here and be a champion, it's where we get it done. I don't want to, I'll do it. I think we're D-line U. I think we're going to evolve into maybe tight end U, running back U. For as much as Jim Harbaugh is supposed to be a quarterback guru, I mean, based on history, I don't know that we're going to be quarterback U. But I'll go back. D-line you for sure. I think that our recent transfers um, have done exceedingly well. I mean, we've got the best center in the entire nation, and he's a transfer from Virginia, right? I mean, we make the most out of our transfers. I think whoever we bring here is just going to thrive here. It's interesting, and I don't want to bag on Michigan State too much, but I have to a little bit because I'm, Wolverine. But, a lot of the talk about Mel Tucker when he came to East Lansing was, hey, this guy, he's an NFL guy. He knows all about free agency, right? So he's going to kill the transfer portal. Well, Jim Harbaugh spent some time in the NFL too. He knows a little bit about how free agency works. He knows about, we're not looking at the stars, right? It's not about are you a 4-star, 5-star? How well do you fit into our scheme? And that's something we've been able to do very well in the transfer portal, and I think we're just going to keep going up from here. So I'm very excited for Michigan in the transfer portal. I did not see a number one transfer portal class coming. I'll be interested to see how this all plays out. I'll be interested in the spring when the transfer portal opens back up. I think we'll have a lot of good conversation, especially when it comes to NIL. But no, I'm excited to see what's going on. I'm kind of shocked to see how many folks are entering. I'm shocked to see how many starters are entering the portal, but it's the Wild West right now, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Lots of transfers.
Unprecedented times, man. Yes, lots of transfers. And it's coming out that a lot of these transfers, don't actually find homes at like equitable level of college football play. So just something to be noted. Just a few more names that are undecided still out there in the transfer portal I wanted to mention. We got DJ Uyunglele from Clemson. Spencer Sanders, mentioned him earlier, from Oklahoma State. Grayson McCall, Sun Belt Player of the Year 3 years in a row at Coastal Carolina, is in the portal. Hasn't made a decision yet. 2 cornerbacks from UNC, Tony Grimes and Storm Duck. Love that name, Storm Duck. But they're both undecided. Two great pieces that I know a lot of teams are trying to add to their roster. And you got Smoke Bowie from Texas A&M. He's looking for a home as well. Made a bunch of big plays. Big special teams guy as well. And then last name I'm looking at, watched him a lot this year in the MAC. Carson Steele was up there in the top 5 of running backs in the nation, and he's looking for a new home. I don't know if it's somewhere else in the MAC or if he has bigger aspirations, but you won't forget that name, Carson Steele. He's going to be toting the ball somewhere, doing some damage.
We're looking forward to all these transfers and all these undecided players that are going to find a home hopefully soon. I think we'll see a lot of the dust settle here after the college football playoff, and that's when everyone can kind of breathe a little bit, especially the recruiters, the coaches that are looking at players that are transferring, that are essentially free agents, like you guys alluded to a little bit ago. And that's basically what it is. It's transferring is the trading and free agency process comparison to, from college to NFL. It's basically, it's done a little bit differently with the coaching carousel and even the player carousel, as I'll go so far to say, with college. But there's a lot of similarities there. And you're looking for the best for yourself, which is very similar directly to NFL and to which players decide to say, I'm going to leave, I'm going to get more opportunities here or whatever, what have you. And there's a lot of similarities there to grow and prosper in your own right. So we'll see when the dust settles where all these players will end up. Real quick, I want to go around the horn and get everyone's college football playoff predictions. Let's talk about Michigan TCU. Just real quick, we got to recap it. We've been talking about it now for a couple weeks, but it's finally almost on our doorstep, these games here coming up in about a week's time. So we're looking forward to it. I'll start with Sam. How do you feel about TCU and Michigan? I know I've asked you this multiple times, but just real quick, in a few sentences or less, what do you think that Michigan has to look out for the most in this TCU Horned Frogs team?
I hate this as a talking point, but I think it has to be said. I hate when folks say, this team has never seen somebody like this. And you know what? That's what Michigan's going to see from Max Duggan. Can you name a Big Ten QB or our non-conference opponents this year like Max Duggan? No, you can't. They don't exist. At the same time, look at our defense. We've got one of the best defenses in the nation, arguably number one, right? So it's going to be, I think, kind of a can you shut down Max Duggan's scramble while still maintaining coverage, right? That's what Michigan has proven to be great at this year, despite their class leaving for the NFL last year. That was kind of the big, big talking point was, Michigan's a lot less talented on the defensive side of the ball. Can they maintain the numbers? Well, yeah, they can. I mean, if we have to go and pull Mike Sanistrell from wide receiver to play DB, that's what we're going to have to do, and we're going to cover these receivers, right? So I think it's going to be a lot about shutting down Max Duggan, and it's going to be a lot about playing our brand of football. Of course, we're a little bit handicapped without Blake Corum, right? Now, I'm not saying that Donovan Edwards is equivalent to the Big 12 Player of the Year, right? But Donovan Edwards isn't far behind. Okay, he ripped 2 touchdowns against Ohio State. He had a great game. I think a long of 85. The guy can play ball. Okay, so TCU to reverse that card, give them a little Uno reverse there. Have they seen a running game like Michigan? I don't think so. Have they seen DBs like Michigan? I highly doubt it. They play in the Big 12 where offense is a given and defense is optional. So
good stuff. Good stuff. Connor, you got anything as far as Michigan TCU is concerned? We'll stay away from Ohio State, Georgia, but yeah, Michigan TCU. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of the game to watch for me is Michigan offense against TCU defense. I'm pretty certain TCU is probably going to be committed to trying to stop the run. They're pretty simply put, they're completely outmatched defensive line, and I don't know if they have one guy over 300 pounds against the back-to-back Joe Morrow winning offensive line. So I think running the ball, I do think Michigan will likely be able to run it just about at will. So that side of the ball, I see. I'll be interested to see if they're gonna play the Ohio State brand of being super committed to the run. They're gonna put 7, 8 in the box at times, leave their cornerbacks on an island, and if that's the case, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just simply see it as a game where inside out, TCU is outmatched on in the trenches, and Michigan's pretty much just wore out teams running the ball and kind of just playing on defense, holding them between the 20s. So I think TCU will be able to move the ball against them, but I don't see them being able to convert much in the red zone. So I see Michigan. I would be surprised if TCU scores over 20 points, and I see something like 31-17-ish type score.
Michigan winning?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Cody, what's your analysis of this game going into it?
Just trying to play it real cool. Last year was real hyped up, and my team coming off a layoff, kind of laid an egg against Georgia. And I'm nervous about that happening again. I want to see JJ. He's going to get his chances. I want to see him make the right decisions, settle down, make the pass he needs to. In the Ohio State game, even he's getting a little cocky, he's having a little too much fun. He lets one get away from him when he throws that interception, just an ill-advised throw, and that worries me a little bit. I don't think it'll happen. And the biggest thing, I haven't heard these guys mention it yet, Donovan Edwards, the most dangerous part of his game is his pass catching ability. And both hands are free now, good to go. No more cast. So old boy's going to be catching passes, and I don't know if TCU can stop him. Max Duggan, he's a different breed though. So he's an X factor that you really can't coach for. You can't coach or teach that kind of heart that Max Duggan has. He really put it on display in the Big 12 championship. He willed his team to even be in the position to play for that loss. But yeah, I don't want to get too excited about that game. Big game.
I'll piggyback you there, Cody. TCU's known as that gritty team. I think Michigan is just as gritty. I don't love to play into the emotional side of the game as much as some other folks do, but I will say this TCU team is pretty equivalent to Michigan last year, right? They're the Cinderella story. They came out of nowhere. unranked to start the season. They're just gritty, they're hard-nosed, and they're going to fight you to the end. That's what Michigan was last year. If you remember the end of our playoff game against Georgia, you remember seeing JJ and Corum and Donovan Edwards and Andrell Anthony watching the Bulldogs celebrate, and they turned around at the tunnel and said, "We'll be back." It's all business right now. It's kind of hard to tell exactly where the headspace of TCU is since they came off of a Big 12 championship loss, right? I mean, it'd be easier if they won the game and we'd say, look, they got their head in the clouds. They're at a place they've never been. So, they've got their nose to the grindstone right now. But in my opinion, it's still kind of the Cinderella story versus the team that can now say, we've been here, we've got experience, and we're back to prove more. TCU, I think, and again, hate to say it, probably just happy to be there. They won't tell you that. I'll tell you that.
Well said.
Hey, there's a lot of teams that wish they were in TCU's position. A lot of teams, maybe not a lot, but there's a few on the list that maybe think they should be in that position after the loss to Kansas State. We got a big cross-conference matchup. Both teams are going to want to win in this one. It's going to be tough to call. That's why I'm not really saying a whole lot about it, but I'm anticipating a great game. And I'm just hoping the bookies call it right, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I think there's going to be some slip-ups from Vegas and some of those bookies up there, and there's going to be some anomalies that we see on the field that could be sniped from a bettor's perspective if you look in the right spots. So we're looking forward to that. We'll be getting you more information on that as the game draws nearer and the college football playoff entirely. Let's give you a college basketball Week 7 update real quick, then we'll get into some final statements. Biggest upset in 3 decades, Iowa Hawkeyes fall to the Eastern Illinois team 92-83 on Wednesday night. EIU was a 31.5-point underdog. Big stuff there. 11th ranked Gonzaga extended home winning streak to 72 straight inside of the McCarthy Athletic Center, longest since that was the NCAA tournament in its expansion stage in 1985. Pretty big stuff there. And then Armando Bacot's 26 points lift Tar Heels over Wolverines in Jumpman Invitational 80-76. Heartbreaker for Juwan Howard. Real quick, we gotta cut everything here. There was clips circulating of Juwan Howard, him elbowing players and whatnot. It looked inadvertent. I know it was blown out of proportion from some people on Twitter, but he was aggravated. He's like, "Get your fucking hands off me." He was like, he's pushing his guys back, and I like the fire. Okay, I love the fire. He thinks he's still back on the court as a player. He has that fire just as he did when he played in the Fab Five for Michigan back in the day. But I've seen a similar thing happen, and we see at times, players put their hands on coaches in an attempt to kind of chill them out a little bit. Don't get teed up, coach. Just take it easy. It's not worth it. But I think Juwan Howard is that guy, and it might just be an intensity thing, and for that reason I don't have a problem with it. But I don't think he should be taking it out on his own players. It's not a good look. He knows he has cameras on him. We know what happened with Wisconsin last year. I think that he just has to dial it back a little bit. I guess, what do you guys think as Michigan guys?
Definitely. I mean, you got 2 of your sons on the team. It's just who he is. That's clear. This isn't just something he really can control. This is the intensity that he lives at. And just as a leader of men, you got your kids on the team. That's not the example you want to set. And, let's get some more dubs. Let's get some more wins. I know it's frustrating and not what you expected again early on in the hoop season, but you gotta rein it in. You don't see masterclass guys like Tom Izzo over there doing that kind of stuff. He'll yell at you, he'll yell and scream, and he'll throw a fit, and to a good point, to really make a point a lot of times, but he's never in these kind of situations putting his hands on guys and whatnot.
Right.
No, putting your hands on players, or last year against Wisconsin, the other team's coach, as a Michigan man, you kind of think, well, I don't know if he's Michigan material. I'm going to, put myself out there and smite him a little bit because I know it works. I was one of the first people to say we got to get Jim Harbaugh out of here. He's not a Michigan man, not Michigan material. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to Howard right now, only so that he turns it all around. I think Howard is not the coach we thought he was. I don't think he's recruiting as well as we thought he was. And, everything he's scheming up is just not working. It worked well with Beeline's guys. It's not working well right now. So Juwan, please take that with a grain of salt and do what you do, because my curse that I throw in there gives a 180. So
yeah, and this is incident number, whatever, 3, 4, 5, however far back you want to go, but yeah, like Cody said, it's pretty clear it's kind of just the guy he is. So nothing in real control from him. All you can ask is that he's not going to do anything ridiculous like hit someone again, because obviously nothing like that we'll be able to pass again. So fiery guy. I think players like that, but as much as I love to see that, I think first order of business is Michigan basketball needs to improve on some basic fundamental basketball concepts. First, like playing defense for more than 15 seconds of the shot clock, closing out possessions, and running some semblance of an offense. So some pretty simple things that I think that have kind of been missed, that maybe were taken for granted when Beeline was here. And so you saw first couple of years, the recruiting slightly improve. And then I think right now, the recruiting class is somewhere in the 40s or 50s, if I remember right. So nothing to be super excited about there. So I'm gonna be patient with it. He's had a little bit of a rough go of it, just in terms of a few things not go his way, but. I think there might need to be some internal assistant coaching changes before we see anything in the head coaching realm change.
if I could add to that, Connor, I think you make a great point. I think as far as being fiery and having that personality, I think that works when you win, right? I think as soon as you start losing, it becomes antics, it becomes shenanigans. If you're a UFC fan, you know what I'm talking about. Look at Conor McGregor, right? He can do whatever he wants. He can throw, shit into the bus. He can start smacking people, fight an old dude at the bar, as long as he's the double champ. But you lose a few in a row, and now you make an ass out of yourself, right?
100%. It's real easy to do.
Yeah.
If you're winning, it's more difficult to do. Kind of alluding to what Sam just said there. But as soon as you would start incurring some of those losses and showing your human abilities to be able to lose, and even if you lose less gracefully, if you don't lose gracefully, you're definitely going to get the hammer brought down on you by people that used to be your fans, and especially people that already hate you for being that successful. So you're going to be getting backlash from all kinds of demographics. So it's
Winning
good to be humble.
everything, though.
That's true. Hopefully it comes around. I want to see that mentality of John Beeline being the Michigan head coach in basketball, completely 180. It's a 180 from Beeline to Howard. But you want to see these guys come full circle and be able to at least hold themselves to somewhat of a standard that is respected and that has been developed by the school or university for, decades. And, Michigan being a very old school is deep ingrained in its traditions, and there's certain values that I'm sure that they hold and that they hold their players and their coaches to act upon. So we got high hopes for him. I like Juwan Howard as a coach at Michigan. He's got a very similar story, maybe not identical, and you're comparing apples to oranges here, but to Jim Harbaugh. And you talk about guys that were alumni there. They played in the sport they're coaching at that university, and Michigan likes their alumni, especially if they're athletes. And if they can bring some coaching ability into that, and I think if they can withhold and upstand their values at the same time, that's going to be all the better. I think that's what Michigan and their higher-ups are looking for. In other news, Tom Izzo gets teed up sporting a Christmas sweater. Looks like an elf in close first half of game against Oakland. And the Grizzlies and the Spartans would wind up winning 67-53, but just another classic sight of Tom Izzo getting irate, chewing the ass out of a ref. And he gets away with a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong, he gets away with a lot, but I think the clown sweater didn't help his cause much.
I love to see, that those were two great examples of like Juwan's tech versus Tom Izzo's tech, because Tom Izzo used his tech as almost a tool to fire his team up. They were struggling against Oakland. You got those Oakland Grizzly guys fired up to play that in-state rivalry, a lot of local dudes, and playing his team playing a little sloppy. And so he's going to cuss them out, let them hear it, let the refs hear it, let everyone hear it, and let his team know, hey, boys, it's time to really tighten up the ship. And that's exactly what they did after that happened. They went into break, came out of halftime, and full throttle to the Oakland Grizzlies. And that's what you like to see. That's why, even as a Michigan fan, I'm a huge fan of Tom Izzo.
It's hard not to be.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the end of the show, guys. Covered a lot of stuff. Your head's probably spinning. Mine's on the verge of spinning. Just with all the stuff we covered, there's a lot going on in college sports right now. We have a somewhat of an eclipse with college sports specifically. We're getting into the thick of it with college basketball while still being heavily invested in college football and the college football playoff. So there's a lot of things to cover, a lot of bowl seasons happening. You got transfer portal stuff. You got coaches moving into different spots, different schools, different programs. Got players moving, players undecided. And you also have some crazy stuff happening in college basketball. We got to give you the lowdown here on the GCP. We got to cover it, leave no stone unturned. But that brings us to the end. So let's go around the circle again. Let's give some final thoughts. I'll start with Connor. We'll go to Sam and then Cody. Give us some final thoughts for the people going into our Christmas holiday here.
Yeah. Final thoughts, I guess. I would say, first off, Merry Christmas, everyone. Second off, thanks for letting me jump on and join you guys with this. It's been super fun. And finally, I would just, my only other thing to add would just be keep an eye on the Minnesota-Syracuse line. I think that's going to move a little bit in favor of Minnesota. So just wanted to point that out before we go.
All right. Sam?
Hey, just like last week, I want to encourage everybody to take advantage of all this football coming up. It's going to run out come late winter. We're going to wonder where it all went. We've got a full slate of NFL games tomorrow, guys. If you got to put 20 on a game to enjoy it, do it, because we're not going to get too many more, okay? We've got a good slate of NFL. We've got a ton of college football next week, and before you know it, we're going to get into the important bowl games and right into the playoff games. So it's going to come at you quick. You've got the NFL playoffs forming right now, and you've got the college football playoffs coming up. So enjoy it, take it all in, don't let it fly by.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Connor, for joining us tonight. Thank you to all our listeners every week for tuning in. Just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, safe travels out there. Weather looks a little underwhelming to what the weather guy is forecasting. Surprise, surprise, right? But nevertheless, travel safely, enjoy your holidays, enjoy your sports, and go Eagles, baby. We're having potatoes for Christmas.
Cody, if I could add real quick, I just got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
As a golfer who insists on golfing every day of the week in the season, I called this. The weather was not going to be that bad. I just knew it. That's the attitude you got to have if you want to golf, and we carry that into the winter. Not that bad.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I can attest to that as a fellow golfer myself. It's never too bad. Even if it's pouring rain out, there's hail falling from the sky, and gale force winds on the third fairway. It's never too bad. Okay, if you're out on the course, it's always a better day than not being on the course. We'll talk about that more in a golf podcast coming to you very soon in a network very nearby. So thank you guys again. I want to thank everybody on this panel for joining us tonight. Connor, Sam, and Cody had a great conversation, some great discourse tonight talking about college sports. And looking forward to the next opportunity we have to do it. As for you guys, thank you so much for listening in to us. And make sure to check us out on all of our socials. Look at our link tree in the bottom of this podcast. I'll attach everyone's socials in the description of this podcast as well. Follow us on IG. That is available through that link tree. And be sure to check out our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all of our articles, insights, IG posts. Everything is on there, and some impressives about us as well. So check it all out. Get a hold of us. Do what you got to do. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys next time. But for now, Merry Christmas from us at GSN. And I'm John J. II. Thank you so much for tuning into the GCP. Until next time, have a great night. See you later.